Oh man, I've been waiting since I started to talk about this division. How about the NFC East? You know, the Dallas Cowboys are the best team in the division, but they're not going to win it. Why don't the Dallas Cowboys win the division, Nick? Because this team went 8-8 with the team they had last year, and they let Carson Wentz, who had high schoolers to throw to because his receiving core was on IR, win the division. How about this to trigger some of you a little bit more? Carson Wentz is a better quarterback, and the Eagles made some good decisions in the offseason. The Cowboys did as well. I'm not saying they didn't, but they're the Dallas Cowboys, and they'll fold at the worst possible time. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this division. The New York Giants, great. Saquon Barkley's back. Daniel Jones has a fumble problem, and for some reason, you Giants will say that we have a chance to make the playoffs. You Giants do not make any playoffs this year. And the Washington Redskins made some changes. Chase Young better get 14 sacks a game if you expect a playoff appearance from this team. Dwayne Haskins has a lot to work on. Let's talk about the NFC East. Go nowhere else. Oh man, the lovable NFC East. Let's get all behind the Cowboys again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm supposed to put all my eggs in a basket and say, let's go Dallas Cowboys because they have a monstrous roster. Isn't that exactly what we said last year? And the team finished 500 and did not win the division. And instead, the Philadelphia Eagles, who had no wide receivers, managed to win the division and go 9-7. Didn't. Or are we going to do the same thing this year because the Cowboys continue to upgrade their roster and they have on paper a Super Bowl team, but yet this team couldn't win the division last year against the Philadelphia Eagles team that on paper they were much better than? Maybe this year because Jason Garrett is not the coach. Now that's what Now listen, I want to make something clear too. I know a lot of Cowboys fans that are very good people. Not all of you are jackasses. But I know that there's going to be a lot of people, and maybe it was the problem, that are going to point to Jason Garrett and say that now that Jason Garrett, his talents are going to the New York Giants as a coordinator, and they have a better coach in Mike McCarthy, now, well, okay, now we got a new coach. Now we can really start playing football. Coaching can screw up a team, but there's no reason that the Cowboys, with the team they had last year, couldn't make the playoffs. They didn't have to go 13-3. They didn't have to win the Super Bowl. They started off 3-0, and then, like typical Cowboys, they did what they do best, and they fold. Fold when it means and matters the most. This Cowboys team won't be bad this year, but it's kind of hard to sit and say that they're going to do what their fans do and say they're going to be 13-3, they're going to dominate the division, and they have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl. We said the same thing last year, and here we are. The Philadelphia Eagles had absolutely no targets last year, and they still managed the playoffs. This Philadelphia Eagles team dramatically upgraded their team. Their offense comes back. Their receivers will hopefully stay healthy. They made some key additions on defense. The New York Giants fans are almost as bad as the Cowboys fans because, again, this team says every year that they have potential to win the Super Bowl. Every single year. You clamored onto Daniel Jones after 2 great games, and I'm not taking anything away from him. I think Daniel Jones is going to be great. Going to be great, meaning he's not there yet. This Giants team has an atrocious defense. They can score all the points they want. They can run Saquon Barkley how much as they want. Daniel Jones has to hang on to the football, and these New York Giants need to continue to try to make some type of hope on their defense. New coach coming in as well. Washington Redskins, well, they speak for themselves. Ron Rivera comes along, but it's going to take time to build a success around a Washington Redskins team. Dwayne Haskins has a lot to learn. Chase Young should be great to watch, but there's really nothing going for them. That's my honest opinion. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the preview and predictions. We're going to start off with the team that I, for some reason, think is going to win the division, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. This team desperately needed Carson Wentz to stay healthy last year, and Carson Wentz, for the most part, did his job. He stayed healthy, and when it was all said and done, his numbers were not that bad. The team had a midseason slump, but they caught fire towards the end of the season, which resulted in them winning the division because the Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys, like I like to say. The problem with Carson Wentz was never his skill and talent. You can see clear as day Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. He knows how to play football, and he's good at what he does. His history of injuries are what has caught the Eagles fans as a question mark. The team was fortunate enough that when Carson Wentz went down at the end of the season after the 13-3 Eagles, which ended up winning the Super Bowl, they had a decent quarterback in Nick Foles. How much credit you want to give to Nick Foles, that's up to you. But the team now does have a backup quarterback, and it's Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts has never played in the NFL, so it's hard to kind of sit here and value what a undrafted or a quarterback with no experience will do in the NFL. Carson Wentz himself is good, but he needs to continue to stay healthy. He played a full season last year. Unfortunately, he did get hurt early in the first playoff game. So, of course, Carson Wentz going down at the worst possible times. I feel like he's going to be one of those quarterbacks where he'll stay healthy most of the time, but he'll go down at the absolute worst possible time. He just rubs me off as that kind of quarterback, and that's not always his fault. The concussion, some of you said, Jadeveon Clowney, yada, yada, yada. Carson Wentz continues to need to work on durability. Now, where I give the pass to Carson Wentz last year is the fact that he didn't have anybody to throw to. The wide receivers went down very early, and the team had pretty much fourth and fifth string players playing as wide receiver. Yes, he had Zach Ertz as his tight end, but one individual tight end can only take you so far. At the end of the day, you need wide receivers. And Carson Wentz didn't have that, yet he still managed to lead this Eagles team to win the division, so that's where you have to tip your hat to him. Jalen Hurts will be backing him up as the quarterback drafted, pending that Carson Wentz's health goes down. Obviously, Carson Wentz's level of play should be no question, but his health has been a question the past couple of seasons. Running backs. Now, last year, Miles Sanders was having a fumble problem early in the season, but as the year went on, Miles Sanders actually attempted to get better, and he did get better. Miles Sanders is going to be the lead back for the Philadelphia Eagles going into the season. He's a great dual threat back, and the Eagles will also have Boston Scott, who will be his backup, who is a typical backup backup running back, but he does have potential to flash certain plays at certain times. But for all reasons and all jokes aside, Miles Sanders should definitely be the running back going forward. He does have a ceiling this year, and the Eagles look like they have found a running back that could be a potentially very good running back for years to come. I don't want to put too much faith into Miles Sanders, not because I don't think he's good, but because, again, it was kind of just a couple of games toward the end of the season, and he does have the potential, and I do see Miles Sanders being a good running back for the Eagles. Receiving core, well, we're going to see it for the first time in 2 years because we really didn't see it last year. The core was ravaged by injuries in 2019. They had fourth and fifth string players. Yes, Hurts remained intact, but the team struggled. Their wide receivers were not there. Nelson Aguilar could not catch the football, and it was just a massive problem for the Philadelphia Eagles last year, where the wide receivers that they had to work with. So a lot of people were crapping on the Eagles, but you have to think in mind, Mahomes is great, but let's take away a couple of his receivers. Let's take away Hill. Let's take away Watkins, and let's see how good that this Kansas City offense really will be. And that would be pretty much a similar situation because, Hurts is one of the best tight ends in the league. Kels, in my opinion, is the best tight end in the league. Kansas City has great receivers. Yes, I know the Eagles' receivers maybe aren't as good as Kansas City's receivers, but they are good receivers. Let's take away a couple of them, and let's see how this Kansas City offense actually does without their wide receivers and a running back that they don't even know what's going to happen this year. But anyway, receivers are going to need to stay healthy. And I think that if they do, this can be a much better Eagles team, and that's one of the things that we're really missing last year with injuries. The offensive line, they have one of the best in the league at offensive line, the Philadelphia Eagles. Kels, Brooks, and Johnson all returned. There are some questions at left tackle. Andre Dillard, they need more from as well. Now we get to the defensive line. This is usually one of the best units of the team, but there were some questions and injuries last year for the Eagles defensive line. Fletcher Cox is coming off of a rough year. Following his surgery, he still made the Pro Bowl, but he was not at full strength. Malik Jackson played only one game last year. The team, however, did sign Jason Hargrave at the defensive tackle. Graham has been solid, and Barnett on the other side is injury-riddled. Now, the signing of Hargrave is good for the Eagles. They're going to look for Fletcher Cox to really get back to that level of play. We know he's one of the best DTs in the league, and the Eagles desperately need him to get back to that level because Fletcher Cox is really a force in the NFL, and the Eagles need him more than anybody. Linebackers, more questions here. The team released Nigel Bradham. They signed Brown, drafted Davian Taylor, and the team also has Edwards and Gary. The linebackers are okay, but it's not like the defensive line. Now, we look at the defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's one of their stronger suits. There are some defensive questions here for this Eagles defense, but one of them should not be the secondary. Some players leave, some come along. The big signing of Darius Slay to the Eagles secondary is so huge, and it's so important. Darius Slay is one of the best corners in the league, and it just gives the Eagles that much better of a secondary. Maddox will be on the other side. The team signed Robbie Coleman. However, the team's decision to let Malcolm Jenkins walk left the safety position. McLeod should replace Malcolm Jenkins, and they also signed Will Parks, who will probably take the other side at safety. Some new additions coming to the secondary, but this Eagles secondary could be interesting to watch. Darius Slay, obviously the key and the master behind it. Letting Malcolm Jenkins go was a bit of a question mark. The team really liked him at safety, but they will not have him going forward. In all honesty, I know a lot of people are going to say when you go over this Cowboys team, how could you sit here and say that the Cowboys won't win the division? The only reason I do is because the Cowboys are the Cowboys. And that's what's going to such a good team on paper and a great team on paper and just a good team on the football field. Dak Prescott pleaded all offseason that he wanted his money. He still didn't get his money. Now, it's clear that Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. I don't think anybody debates Dak Prescott's skill. But I think, in all honesty, his performance should be better than it is. In certain circumstances, not in all circumstances. I think that Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, but again, the team wants to see more success, and the Dallas Cowboys need to see more long, durable success before they give this guy all their money. Now, if you're a Titans fan, like me, you notice that the Titans saw Ryan Tannehill run through 10 great games, lead the team to an AFC championship game, and the Titans said, oh my God, we're going to give him $100 million. I like Ryan Tannehill. I think he's a good quarterback. Would I have given him $100 million? No, I would have not. Dak Prescott is good, but the team wants his money. We're going to have to see what happens from Dak Prescott this year. He has a lot of weapons to work with. The team signed Andy Dalton to be a backup quarterback. I would not expect Andy Dalton to get too much playing time. Obviously, he will in the event of injury. I do not expect poor play from Dak Prescott. Running back, Ezekiel Elliott is the unquestioned running back, but one of the things that we do have questions about with Ezekiel Elliott is that he kind of took a step back last year. The team needs a little bit more from him this year. Now, Elliott didn't have what you would consider to be a bad year as a running back, but he didn't have the best year. We noticed Ezekiel Elliott was kind of underperforming a little bit. Now, we have to talk about their backup. Tony Pollard was a very good backup. Now, a lot of times we don't tend to give backup running backs the credit that they deserve, but Tony Pollard was a very, very good backup for the Dallas Cowboys. So I do not think, obviously, Elliott will underperform, but they're going to need to look for a little bit more from Elliott. You know, Elliott gets labeled as the best running back in the league, and he didn't have a bad season, but the team needs him to play to the moniker of the best running back in the league. Their receivers, they have one of the best cores in the league. Amari Cooper was a completely amazing signing for the Cowboys, but for one thing to notice is he hasn't played well on the road. Opposite side of him, Michael Gallup, very good. The team signed Cobb. They drafted CeeDee Lamb, and the team likes Blake Jarwin at tight end with Bell as his backup. One of the best wide receiving cores in the league. Look for the Dallas Cowboys offense to be a fantasy match made in heaven this year because just you have to look at, all the tools that they have. It's impossible for any quarterback to not be good if you're on the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, come on now, look at those targets. We're talking about a very good offensive line, and the Cowboys boast one of the best in the league. They have Looney, McGovern, and Williams in spot. Martin is amazing at guard, also Smith at tackle, and Collins. Cowboys have some questions at defensive line, but not terrible. They know that DeMarcus Lawrence is very good at his position, but he's coming off of a lackluster 2019. The team hopes that Smith or Gregory can be of value. They have a big signing. Now, I have news on this. The team signed Dontaire Poe at defensive line and Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy, if I'm correct, tore his ACL, and the team is actually not expecting Gerald McCoy to be at all in the 2020 season. Sometimes I want to remind people, too, that when I take these notes, there are certain situations where things happen after I take these notes, so people go back and watch and say, oh, that's not true. You always look at the published date on any YouTube video before you make any type of criticism. Linebackers, Lee, Van Der Esch. The team needs more from him to get back to his elite level. The team also needs more from Jalen Smith. Their secondary, now some transition here. The team lost Byron Jones. He did go to the Miami Dolphins. That is a blow to the Cowboys secondary. However, they did draft Trayvon Diggs. They also have Reggie Robinson, Awuzie, Lewis, and Brown all come back. They like Clinton Dix at safety, and Woods most likely will get the other spot at safety. So a lot of transition in the Cowboys secondary. Some defensive questions for sure for this Dallas Cowboys team. Some questions at linebacker, definitely questions at defensive line, but some additions, and the secondary has a lot of transition. I don't think the Cowboys are going to have any problem scoring the football. One of my problems with me is going to be their transition phase for their defense. New York Giants. Their fans are good fans, but they often put their New York Giants in a category that they don't belong in. I knew last year the Giants were going to finish 5-11. Their team, for some reason, said we can go 500, we can go 7-9, and none of those things happened. The team went 5-11, I believe. Let's talk about quarterbacks. It's the first year, well, last year was the first year that the Giants did not have Eli Manning. That is actually a lie. Eli Manning did start 2 games. Daniel Jones was thrown right to the fire as the starting quarterback for the New York Giants. And in those first 2 games that he played, he looked like he belonged. He played great, and he won 2-0. And then after that, the rookie side of Daniel Jones, it didn't take long, started to show. Daniel Jones has potential. He's athletic, he's got speed. Nobody is sitting here saying that Daniel Jones doesn't have potential. But some of the Giants fans are putting Daniel Jones in this category that he just doesn't belong in. Some of you are saying he's a top 10 quarterback. Some of you are saying he's a top 15 quarterback. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know any atmosphere that I live on or any planet that I reside in that Daniel Jones is a top 10 quarterback. I can quickly name 10 quarterbacks better than him. And it's not me shitting on Daniel Jones and saying he doesn't have potential. Yeah, he does have potential, but he has a lot to work on before he gets to that. One of Daniel Jones' problems has been hanging on to the football. Turnovers are so crucial, but they're not good for you on offense. Daniel Jones needs to learn to hang on to the football. The team actually has Colt McCoy coming in as a backup quarterback, and Colt McCoy's been around for quite a while. He will be a good veteran presence for Daniel Jones. The team is very behind Daniel Jones, but I can't see Colt McCoy being put into the starting position. I really don't. But if the Giants or Daniel Jones was that bad, it's possible. But I wouldn't go into it with the mindset of Daniel Jones being benched whatsoever. Running backs. They need Saquon Barkley to get back to his full health. Yes, he came back last year after his injury, but he wasn't really at full health, and that's one of the things that he mentioned. Saquon Barkley has potential to be, and probably will be, the best running back in the league when he gets to full health. The team signed Dion Lewis as a backup. I will say this. Dion Lewis was a great backup in New England, or a starting running back. He then went to the Titans, and he did absolutely nothing for me. I'm sorry. Dion Lewis, I was never high on, but the Giants have him as a running back. I don't think he's not a bad running back. It's just, New England is that system where they're set to breed running backs. And I think that Dion Lewis is cool to have for the Giants run game, but I don't think that it's going to be he's going to be that big of a factor in the run game for the Giants. But it all depends how they try to balance out Barkley and him as well. The receivers, Shepard and Tate. Shepard struggled with injuries last year. Tate was good, but again, he's getting up there in age. Darius Slayton is young and uprising. They think that there's a lot of potential with Darius Slayton, and Evan Ingram is great at tight end. So there is, as you can see on this receiving corps for this New York Giants team, there is potential. Evan Ingram is a good tight end. Darius Slayton's young, and he does have upside. But they need more from Sterling Shepard. And Golden Tate, I don't really know. It wasn't awful for him on the Giants, but I just think that, he's getting up there in age, and the ceiling for him is only going to be so high. The offensive line, well, LOL. The team's first draft was Andrew Thomas. The team drafted an offensive lineman. They drafted Andrew Thomas to be a lineman for the New York Giants. Nate Solder is coming off of a huge contract, but a bad year. Kevin Zettler is good at guard. Hernandez is coming off of a poor season. And from what I'm told, the center position for the New York Giants is up for grabs. The offensive line definitely has a lot of questions. And there is some hope, though, with Zettler there, obviously. Hopefully the team will get a much-needed push from Andrew Thomas. Hernandez will need to step up his game as well. The defensive line is kind of one of the things that, there is some hope here. Lawrence is great. The team likes Tomlinson. Williams did struggle last year, and they also signed Johnson to be on their defensive line. Now, one of the better positions for the New York Giants is their linebacking core. The team signed Martinez. They liked Ryan Connolly, but he was great, and then he did get hurt. The team needs more from Carter and Zimes, and they also signed Fackrell as well for their linebacking core. Now, their secondary, one of the big signings for the Giants was James Bradberry coming over from Carolina. James Bradberry is a very underrated player, if you ask me, as a corner in the NFL. And I think that it was a nice signing for the New York Giants to go out and get James Bradberry. Baker is coming off of a rough rookie season, and he's got a lot of legal trouble. I don't know how much longer DeAndre Baker will be a Giant. Beal, Ballentine, and Holmes are possibilities to play. The team drafted Xavier McKinney to play safety, and they need more from Jabril Peppers on the other side. One thing I like is that Xavier McKinney should be a good upside for a safety. He was one of the guys that a lot of people did talk about going into the NFL draft. Xavier McKinney could provide definitely some help to that New York Giants secondary as well. I'm talking about the Washington Redskins. Quarterback position. Now, the way that the team has this worded is that Dwayne Haskins is the starting quarterback. But they also have Kyle Allen as a backup. Now, I don't think Kyle Allen's amazing, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him start at some point during the season. If you know anything about how the quarterback position goes for the Washington Redskins in recent years, it revolves around 35 different quarterbacks. Dwayne Haskins has a lot to learn. I'm not going to sit here and say there is no potential for Dwayne Haskins, but he has so much to learn. Kyle Allen is his backup, so pretty much Dwayne Haskins' job as starting quarterback is his to lose. Alex Smith is still on the roster, but he's unlikely to start. Alex Smith will be more of a mentor, but could you imagine if Alex Smith was actually starting to play some quarterback at this stage in his career after everything he'd gone through? I just saw something the other day about all the things that Alex Smith had to go through, which is pretty miraculous, by the way. Running backs, Darius is coming off of a solid season, but it could have been his last because the team released him after constant legal trouble, which now means one of the all-time great running backs could be their starter. Adrian Peterson, going strong in year number whatever it is. Adrian Peterson, from what I'm told, is going to be the starter for the Redskins at running back, and that is something special. Adrian Peterson's limit can't be that high at this stage in his career, but man, there's nothing wrong with him getting some more stats on his resume. Peyton Barber is supposedly going to be the backup for the Redskins at running back. Receivers, McLaurin is the lead target on the team, but outside of that, the team has a lot of questions. The team outside Sims Jr. and Harmon, the team has, are you ready for this? 7 tight ends are battling. The team signed Thomas also as a tight end. So what I'm told, there are 7 tight ends battling for the tight end spot on the Redskins. Good luck winning that. Offensive line, I am not even going to go over it. I legitimately am not. There are so many questions about this team's offensive line, and there's so many injuries. Defensive line, there's one huge upside, and that's the drafting of Chase Young. Chase Young has potential to be Defensive Player of the Year, or Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm sorry. Huge potential. Sweat, Kerrigan, some questions with Allen and Payne. Adonis seems to have a spot. The defensive line looks like it's going to be a little bit stronger this year, especially with someone like Chase Young on it. Linebackers, Bostic and Holcomb signed. Team also signed Thomas Davis. He's also at a late stage in his career, but it doesn't hurt to have someone who's a pretty good player at their position. Secondary, the only member left from it is Collins. He's the only member left from 2019. The team signed Kendall Fuller. They also signed Sean Davis. Morale, Collins is at safety, and Curl, or APKE, I don't know how to pronounce his name, will compete for the other safety spot. You talk about a Washington Redskins team that has a lot of questions. It's great that Ron Rivera came in to coach this team, but my God. Outside of the defensive line, it really doesn't look like there is any position that is solid on this Redskins team. Their receivers, they don't even know who, there's 800 of them. The offensive line, injured, so many questions. Linebackers could be decent. Secondary, all new guys, except for Collins. Quarterback, Dwayne Haskins is as green as grass. Kyle Allen's his backup. Running back, Adrian Peterson, no disrespect to him, but how much are you going to get out of Adrian Peterson at this stage in his career? They had Darius Geis. He's gone. Defensive line looks like the only position where the Redskins have legit potential and have some type of solid ground. I haven't think I've gone over any team that has more question marks than the Redskins do, doing all of these previews. This Redskins team is going to sink towards the bottom of the division. I'm sorry. This team's offense is a giant question mark. Some upside on defense. Their secondary is virtually brand new. Defensive line looks good. Linebackers could be good. The offensive line, it looks terrible. Their receivers, they don't even know who is who. Running backs, Adrian Peterson is your lead running back. And quarterbacks, how great is Haskins really? So, in all honesty, I expect a long year from the Redskins yet again. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I want to continue to thank you for watching and supporting this. We are full underway in the NFC predictions. The NFC North will be next. Stay tuned.